Hi guys, welcome back. So today's video is going to be about our pioneer ancestors, and how we can find some pioneer ancestors here on Familysearch. So this is Familysearch.org's homepage once you sign in. Right here in the top middle will be like activities or suggestions on activities that you can do. So right here is like pioneer ancestors, celebrate your ancestor special events. Ever wonder where you get your looks from? So those are 3 activities that they suggest that you can do. But these are constantly always changing. So let's go back. So we're going to click right here on the Discover Your Pioneer Ancestors. And it should bring us up to a pioneer page here on Familysearch. But Familysearch likes to change what's here on the suggested activity section on the homepage. So if this pioneer section isn't here, we can come up to the web address, and after familysearch.org, we can type /campaign/pioneers. And it should take us to the same page. This is one of the pioneer pages here on familysearch.org. And right now it's pulled up one ancestor, Christensen Olsen. And it has brought up basic information about him. So we have his photo, his name. We can click on his name and it should bring up his personal page here on Familysearch. And sure enough, it has brought us to his personal page here on Familysearch. And we can scroll down and learn more information about that ancestor if we choose to. I'm not going to. Let's go back. So underneath his name, we have the year he was born and the year he died, his personal ID here on Familysearch. And then we have view photos and stories, which we can click on that, and I believe it should bring us up to his personal memory section on Familysearch. Let's click on that. And sure enough, it has brought us to his memory section on his personal page. So this is memories. If we click on details, it'll bring us to his personal page. See? And then this is the memory section of his personal page. So let's close that. Then underneath the view photos and stories is view your relationship. So let's click on that. And by clicking on that, it has now brought up this pop-up showing my relation to this Christian Olsen, or to that ancestor. Sorry for the blurs, but I have to keep my family life private, so please deal with it. So let's close out of that. And then over here on the side would be like the company he traveled with, which we don't know. Then right here is his age. He was 26 when he departed to come here to the West, when he decided to start traveling to where the saints are at. The year of his departure, and once again, the company is unknown. So down below is what I think is the cooler section of this whole pioneer section. It is a timeline of what was going on in the world and what was going on in Christensen's life. So the timeline starts in 1800 and ends in this case in 1870. And Christensen's life is right here in the green section. So he was born in 1841 and he died in 1915, which is over here. But the black section are things that were going on in the world, and the green section is just showing you where Christensen was alive, or that ancestor was alive during these time frames in the world. So around the 1800s, we had Lewis and Clark started the expedition. In 1830, the church was founded. So right after Christensen was born, the Oregon Trail migration had started. the first pioneers arrived in Salt Lake. And then about the time that he actually traveled here to the United States, or to Utah, which is in 1868, there was actually the Transcontinental Railroad was completed. So he actually came at a good time. I like this little timeline. I think it's cool to compare your ancestors' life to what was going on in the world / the church. So I think that's really kind of cool. So if you want to view more pioneer ancestors, you can click on these arrows on the side, on the right and the left side. So I'm going to click here on the right hand side. So we have a next ancestor, which is Christine Olsen Nielsen. And so now you can see that it's pretty much the same for her. It still says unknown company. So she traveled with some unknown company or companies. Where she departed from. We didn't have that with Christensen, but we actually know where she departed from and when she departed. So instead of her age, we actually know when she departed and where she departed from. And then down here at the timeline, even though she was born about the same time frame, they have actually moved her green section over just a little bit. She was born 2 years after Christensen was. So let's go see when the next ancestor is. Okay, so Lenore Bailey is the next ancestor. And they actually have changed hers up a little bit. So we have the same basic personal information, but we actually now know the company she traveled with, and we can click on that and it should bring us up to Church History Library page. So let's click on that and we'll learn about that. So sure enough, it has brought us here to the Church History Library page, and it has actually brought us up to the company that Lenore traveled with. So she traveled with the Daniel Thompson Company. So over here on the side is Daniel Thompson and some information about him and his company. So when they departed, where they departed from, when they arrived to their destination, that he was a captain, how many people were part of his company, and just some of the general basics about his company. Right here is kind of a brief summary about his company. So he traveled with 500 immigrants in 85 wagons. And then right here in the blue is some sources of how they know that information. And then we can click here on individuals in the company, and it should list all the individuals who were traveling in this company. Let's click on that. And sure enough, it does. Now we can scroll through it and view some of the people who were part of that company. Or we can just find Lenore Bailey here and click on her page. And sure enough, it has brought us here to Lenore Bailey's personal page on the Church History Library. So we have Lenore Bailey here. Sometimes they will show a picture over here like we saw with Daniel. But in this case, Lenore doesn't have one, but we have her birthday, her death date, gender, and then Familysearch stuff. Over here is a brief summary about Lenore and her traveling here to Utah. Then the company she traveled with, her age when she departed, and then down here is some sources of how we know this information about Lenore. And we can click here with the Daniel Thompson Company, and it should bring us back to Daniel Thompson's company's page. And sure enough, it does. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to close that. And we're going to go back to the Pioneer page on Familysearch. So here we are back on the Pioneer page on Familysearch. Sorry for the sidetrack on the Church History Library page, but it was good information that you need to know. So underneath the company that Lenore traveled with, we actually have a place where she departed from, and the date they departed, and then underneath that, her age. So she was 17 when they departed Nebraska. And she traveled for 66 days. That's something we didn't have with the other ancestors. It's how many days they traveled. For her, we know that she traveled for 66 days. Then underneath that, it actually is saying that she traveled by wagon. So I would assume that if your ancestors traveled by handcart, it would show a handcart or whatever they traveled with. Or if you go back to before, it just says they don't know. And then once again, because Lenore was actually born in 1849, so 8 years after Christensen and 5 years after Christina, I don't know, I think her name was Christina. So down here on the timeline, hers is actually really dropped down to almost 1850. It still lists the same things that were going on throughout the year, throughout the world. But her little green bar of her life is actually shorter because she was born later. If you have ancestors who were born in like 1810 or 1820, the little green bar will go clear over here. So that is it for this Pioneer page on Familysearch.org. They do actually have another Pioneer section in the Discovery section on Familysearch. I have done a video on that, and I will link that video in the description box below in case you want to learn more about your Pioneer ancestors or view the other Pioneer page. I hope this video was helpful about learning how to find your Pioneer ancestors and who your Pioneer ancestors are and how they traveled here to the West. If you guys have any questions, please comment below. I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. If you guys have any suggestions on anything else I should film, please also comment below. And I hope you all have a beautiful week. Bye!